Tony Lopes joins me here today, and you can learn what he is up to by heading over to bootscapital.com. Yeah, we're going to be a bit all over the place here today, but primarily, I think we're going to be talking mostly on Tony's book, and you can find it on Amazon and all of your favorite booksellers. Freedom at Risk: How to Protect Your Personal and Financial Freedoms. And this should be a great conversation. I really appreciate your time, Tony.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun, a lot of value add for the listeners and for the viewers. Thank you.
A couple things, I can't help but notice the names of some of these things. Dirty Boots Capital to begin with. What originated the name there?
Yeah, good question. So I got started in real estate 20 years ago, and I'm the type of guy that I like to walk the property, go through, you know, everything from each and every unit to climbing on the roof, looking at heating systems. And, I did some ground up construction, single family construction as well. So I got my boots dirty in the field. But as the 20 years of maturity kind of progressed, I realized that being a real estate investor meant so much more than getting your boots dirty in the field. It meant getting your boots dirty walking through financial reports, migration patterns, demographics, right? Where's society headed? Where's the young people moving to? What's going on with that whole movement? What's happening with the older population? What are they looking at? So there's so much more than just getting your boots dirty, walking in the field, walking through the dirt and construction sites. That's something that's very relatable to folks, a very visual and impactful type of thing when you think about real estate today. There's a lot of different aspects in which we need to get our boots dirty.
Could you talk a little bit about your background? How did you find your way into real estate investing? Because there's some obvious differences there based on what you're talking about. There must have been some data analysis in your background.
Well, the way I got started in real estate 20 years ago, and I think this will be a very relatable story to the audience, is, I grew up in a household. My parents were immigrants to this country, legal immigrants. They followed the process, the laborious process of becoming U.S. citizens, God bless them. And so they came from a relatively poor country. And so they saw a lot of opportunity here in the US of A. And so they handed down the tablets of go to school, get a great education, you'll get a great job, and you'll be taken care of first, right? That was their mantra that they handed down to me and my siblings. And so being a young person, that's what I did. I did what mom and dad told me to do. So I did just that. Go to school, got a great education. Actually got two great degrees, a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, which on its own is a great education. But then also I got an MBA degree, which then you can go off and do a whole bunch of other things. So I got two great degrees and got a great job, was flying high, thought I was set. And one day I got a pink slip saying, Tony, you're not needed here anymore. And that was a huge wake up call for me, Jack. And I don't know if any of the audience members have experienced that or even considering that possibly happening to them in the future. But for me, it brought forward the realization that deep down inside, freedom was a huge value to me as an individual. I wanted to do the things I wanted to do and go where I wanted to go and really experience life the way I wanted to. And so I wasn't financially free at the time. So for me, I had to find another job, which I did. But quickly thereafter, I decided I needed to do something more to create a secondary income for myself, to protect myself, to be able to live the life and have the freedoms I wanted. So I started investing in real estate slowly, right? I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, and my parents certainly didn't hand me down, tons of money. As you can imagine, my parents were immigrants. So, we were a very modest family. So I started buying small multifamilies, a quad, so 4 units. And then from there, I bought a duplex and then a triplex. And I share that story because sometimes folks think they got to go big. I got to buy 10 units, 20 units, 40 units. I got to start with a syndication. I got to, go real big. And that's not true. You really can, as I did. I like to think I'm an example of sorts. And that's why I love doing these podcasts. I was able to get where I am today because of buying a quad, buying a duplex, starting small. So that's how I got started. And the reason why I got started is because I was handed a bad news situation of being laid off and had to turn it into a good news story. Fortunately, that was a very good thing for me because it helped me realize my value system and how strong freedom ran through my veins.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. I mean, we got to look at the economy and the way things are going right now. We're seeing quite a few announcements lately, large companies in the tech industry doing some pretty significant layoffs at the moment.
But it's kind of one of those things we have to look at and we have to prepare for. And we have to say, what's the likelihood of that happening? And if that does happen, what what are my options? And if you can get in front of that and start preparing for that today versus the day it happens or the day after it happens, you're in a much, much better situation if you proactively prepare for it.
This kind of goes back to making some choices too. A lot of people don't take the proactive route versus those instant gratifications and spending some of that money on something else.
Yeah, I have the pleasure and I'm so fortunate to be around a great group of very successful real estate entrepreneurs and investors. And I can mention some names that your audience will know, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to embarrass anybody by mentioning names or anything. But some of these folks are the most humble people you will ever meet, and they are the hardest working people you would ever meet. They are so incredibly successful, and you look at them and you say, well, they don't have to work that hard. They don't have to grind each and every day, 7 days a week, but they do. And so today I see I see a lot of folks who kind of only give it 50%. And they think I'm going to be successful by giving it 50%. But if really success really comes by digging down deep and working hard. You can listen to all the podcasts. You can read all the books. And I encourage folks to listen to podcasts and read books and all that sort of stuff and go to meetups and network. That's all very valuable stuff. But at the end of the day, you got to do the work. And so an analogy that I use is you look at folks like sports athletes, right? So Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, the big names, and many of the names we don't hear have a team, a suite of people, coaches that they work with, multiple coaches, not just on the field, but off the field, nutritionists, chefs, personal assistants, this roster of folks and coaches that assist that one individual. The analogy I share is I see a lot of folks who are relying on their coaches to get the work done. They're on the court coach, they're off the court coach, their trainer, their nutritionist, their chef. They're relying on those folks to make them successful. But at the end of the day, it's Michael Jordan putting in the hard work, showing up early, staying late. It's Tiger Woods hitting an extra bucket of balls, right? Not his coach, right? So I want to impress that important value upon the audience to say, you can do it, but make sure you're also there putting in the hard work alongside your coaches.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough. And it's kind of shocking actually how many people will hire a mentor or they'll go through that work and then they don't actually implement what was taught.
Yeah.
Based on that, you brought up before we hit record that you're going to be at the Real Estate at Sea cruise. What a great way to jumpstart your real estate if you want to have a great opportunity to meet some great people. That's reiatc.com. I'll have that as a link in the show notes as well for people to check it out. But unless you treat this like a business, it's not going to go anywhere.
Absolutely. I try to be the example. I'm not perfect and I don't have all the answers. That's certainly something I share with people time and time again. I'm always working on myself, trying to be a better version of myself. just this weekend, I spent 4 days at a retreat going through my goals and really looking at not just my goals for 2025, which is an important thing to do, but also digging deep in terms of why I didn't achieve or fully achieve some of my goals for 2024. And that can be a very hard thing to do. But as the athlete, you need to do that. You need to dig deep. You need to assess that and be honest with yourself. Did I not fully achieve this because I was lazy? Because maybe it isn't a real goal of mine, right? Did I leave it up to somebody else? I put it down as my goal. I wanted to get the satisfaction of it, but really I was leading it to my coaches and to my, my staff, so to speak, to make it happen. I really wasn't fully committed to it. So shame on me, right? We really have to look at that. We have to look at, also the resistance in our life. I'm reading a book right now called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, and it's a fantastic book. I encourage folks to read it. I think The War of Art, just honestly, has been more impactful to me because he does speak a lot about resistance and analyzing in our own world, what is resistance to us? What's causing us not to achieve our goals? Each and every day, we can go through and we can have goals and we can have action items and things. But if that isn't getting done, why isn't it getting done? Are we lazy? Are we preoccupied with other things? Are we not willing to dedicate the time it needs? Are we not willing to get the education to be able to meet that action or that goal? What is it that's preventing us? Is it because it's going to cost too much money and we don't want to allocate financial resources towards that? Is that the resistance? Is it fear? Right? We always got to contemplate that, whether it's fear. And we have to find out what that resistance is, because if you don't understand what that resistance is that's preventing you from completing actions and meeting your goals, it's going to be real difficult to really achieve those things. You really have to understand the resistance. So we can talk about all these things and make it an entire weekend seminar, Jack. I'm just really touching on the surface of things that are really impactful to me. And it's not, we can do real estate and we can have a real good conversation about real estate, but fundamentally, the top athletes around me who are doing real estate, these are the things they're looking at. They're reading the book, The War of Art. They're looking at their resistance. They're being very humble in saying, where do I need to work harder? Right? I mean, these are very successful people. And they're saying, where can I get better than I am today?
This is one of those things that I think is especially interesting because what you're really kind of touching on is the concept of us personally reaching our full potential and building on yourself and working on yourself as much as you would work on your business.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important, and sharing those struggles with others as well. I agree that we should share our goals with others because there's things that people can help us with along the way, but also sharing our struggles to say, hey, I'm having trouble doing this. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm working on myself in terms of how I do underwriting. That's one of my things I want to improve on to do it better, quicker, the whole bit. So I have my process and I can go along for the next 20 years and use my process, and that would serve me well. But I realize I may not have all the right tools or all the right spreadsheets or all the right things. I got to take the blinders off and see if somebody else is doing it better. And I'm sure there are. So I'm taking a look at a couple of other underwriting tools, right? And people could say, gee, Tony, why are you wasting your time with that? You have fine underwriting. You've been very successful. Yeah, but I'm not perfect, right? So I'm looking at other underwriting tools. And so I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who's also in real estate. And I was sharing with him that I'm going through this process, analyzing different underwriting tools. And he was so generous. He said, Tony, I'll send you my underwriting tool that I use. How generous was he to be able to offer that up? He didn't ask me for money. He didn't ask me to join his, coaching or network or whatever he does. He just very graciously shared that. And it's only because I shared that struggle with him. So I encourage folks, if you're struggling with something, share that with others from a place of being very humble and knowing that none of us are perfect. We're all looking to be a better version of ourselves down the road.
I don't know about you, Tony, but one of the only industries that I've been a part of or worked in where I find that there is actually more of a freedom around that than I have in other industries, where other investors are more likely to be willing to share their experience, their tools, their wisdom than to withhold it as if you're in some sort of competition.
You're so right. If I worked for the pharmaceutical industry and you worked for the pharmaceutical industry and we went to a conference being held around pharmaceuticals and we both had booths there, chances are we would not be sharing demographic information and trade secrets because we're competitors within the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, that makes sense. But with real estate, you are so incredibly right. Everybody wants to help others with a hand up, right? I have a couple of friends of mine who just bought a duplex for the first time last year, and I invited them to come to a conference with me. And they were there networking with other folks. And this was their first real estate conference of sorts. And so they shared with me, oh my God, it's amazing how nice these people are and how willing they are to help us and ask questions because they have a lot of questions regarding should we continue down the path of multifamily? Should we do Airbnb? An answer to that question that they had. So, yeah, you're right. So, if folks aren't out there joining their local real estate investment association or club, all the cities have something local to you. So, take a look. If you're struggling to get into real estate or if you're trying to get better, scale, have more units, different size of assets, whatever it is, go to your local real estate investment group and network with people. Chances are you're going to find people with the same sort of struggles as you that can relate to you, and you can find people who have overcome those struggles and can become an advisor for you.
Just to remind everybody, dirtybootscapital.com, dirtybootscapital.com. You can learn more about what Tony does there. So, Tony, let's say we've properly scared everybody enough now. They're about to get their pink slip and they should probably protect themselves in some way with streams of multiple streams of income. Where do you suggest somebody may start?
So there's a lot of ways to create multiple streams of income, starting slowly. And before you get the pink slip is an important one. I like real estate. I think there's a lot of opportunity in real estate. But with real estate, there's can be that learning curve and the financial curve up front to come up with the down payment. If you're already engaged down that road, I think real estate is an excellent way to create additional cash flow for yourselves. As I mentioned, my friends just bought a duplex and they're cash flowing an extra $1,400 a month just from that duplex, right? Just one duplex, 1,400 a month. And that's amazing. They knocked it out of the park. They're doing great. And so, before you get that duplex or get that pink slip, if you have one of those duplexes and then second year, you buy another duplex, now you're up to $2,800 a month that you're cash flowing and it just snowballs from there. So I love real estate, but there's a lot of different aspects to creating multiple streams of income. Some folks don't resonate with real estate. So, maybe stocks, bonds, things like that is the avenue for them. Trading options could be an avenue for them. I have a great friend of mine, John, who has a coaching program that teaches that stuff. Full disclosure, I haven't been through it, so I'm not here to market it, but that's his thing. He has found that he can consistently, and his students consistently create cash flow each and every month from trading options. If that's your thing, if you like looking at technology stocks and financial stocks like banks and things like that, great. You gravitate towards that, go seek that out. If your interest is that, I'm never, ever going to push you towards real estate, so to speak. I think everybody should have some real estate in their portfolio, but go with what your passion is. Because chances are, if that's your passion to trade options, you're really going to take to it. You're going to be reading books. You're going to listen to podcasts. You're going to be doing that when you come home from work, right? That's your passion. And that's what it's going to take to really be good at it. When I started in real estate, I was working my 9 to 5, but I came home. I was looking at real estate until 10 o'clock at night. I was going on tours, looking at properties. I was doing it on Saturdays and Sundays because that was my passion. And to get good at something, you really have to have a passion for it. So find that passion. It could be real estate, it could be in trading options. Some folks have found success with crypto. And with that, one of my things this year, I'm really looking hard for a good asymmetric play. What I mean by that is something that has very low downside, something I can invest in. I use the example of Bitcoin to say, imagine Bitcoin like 10 years ago, you could, invest $1,000. And if it went south on you, all you lost was $1,000. But look at it today. If you kept with it, $1,000 of Bitcoin 10 years ago, you'd be a multimillionaire today. So we're looking at some different things relative to asymmetric plays. Where's the next thing? Is it with FX currency? Is it with a certain type of crypto? Is it with land, right? Certain land plays. Where can we position ourselves? My portfolio, I have real estate, I have stocks, I have bonds. I'm looking for this next big thing with an asymmetric play. I'm never stopping. I'm looking at everything across the board, and I encourage others to do the same.
Well, you would suggest though that especially early on, you're probably best to find something that interests you and focus. You're at the position now where you are able to look at some of these other things.
Yeah, I do have that, so to speak, that luxury, but you're so right to at first to have that clarity of what your passion is. And that's where sometimes it takes a little bit of peace and quiet and analyzing ourselves to say, what is that? There's a lot of folks I've come across that we joke have that squirrel mentality where they're always looking for the next nut. They run to crypto, they run to real estate because social media is saying real estate, Lambos into the moon, and then they jump to something else and another thing. Uh, Find your passion. There's a lot. We were talking about it just this weekend. Get yourself out there and surround yourself with smart people. If you're hanging out with duds, chances are you're not going to be getting any nuggets. This weekend, we were talking about how there's a lot of folks who have, I think the baby boomers, who have aged, who have great, successful businesses, who want to retire. And their next generation just doesn't want to take over the business for one reason or another. And I'm not saying they're good people or bad people. I'm not saying that. They just don't want to take over the business. Yet there's very successful businesses that these baby boomers want to retire from. Do you think there's some opportunity there?
Oh, sure.
Absolutely. Right? Because these baby boomers, do you think they're using the latest marketing strategies and AI and really looking to scale the business? Probably not. So it's very ripe for opportunity there. So if you're somebody who says, hey, I want to have a business and I want it to look like this, take a look in your area for somebody who may have that business and whether they're looking to retire from it and sell it today or in 3 years, maybe there's an opportunity to partner with them to say, hey, I'd like to take over your business in 3 years. You show me the ropes, teach me how to do it, and then take it over in 3 years. That way you can retire it. Do you think they would be open to that? I think so. I think they would. This is their baby. They want to see their baby business carry on and not just die. So I
Mhm.
think there's a lot of opportunity there. So we just have to, kind of think a little bit out of the box.
Oh, that's really great insight. And what I think is also great is the fact that you're not pushing everybody into this concept of real estate investing. It isn't a great fit for everybody. And taking that honest assessment of what you might be interested in, it kind of reminds me of quite a while ago, I took a personality test. And you go through that to determine, and the book at the time was called Do What You Are. It was this personality test. And what I thought was really helpful was while I was the first personality test that I took, that my wife was there as well. So when I was answering some of these questions, she was calling me out on that, on some of the things. And it was like the first time where I actually think I got a decent result, because you're not answering what you hope you are or what you want to become. You are actually answering it the way you are.
It's hard. It's hard to be honest with yourself. And so it's very easy for us to surround ourselves with people in a network that can yes us and say, "Oh, great job. I've done different things in my life, and my family, my friends will say, 'Oh, that's great. Congratulations. Great job. You did this. You wrote this.'" Some of the more powerful conversations have been the conversations of, "Is that truly the right thing?" Or, "What you wrote, do you truly believe that?" Or is that the best advice that you can give somebody in that situation? Or is somebody who's really not critiquing me just to critique me, but that constructive type of feedback, that intellectual conversation to challenge me, because that challenge, that is what's going to make me the best and most powerful person I can be, right? So I think that, I I go through this exercise with folks where I have them do like a 3 by 5 networking plan. And it's really meant to be this very deep intellectual type thought process within themselves. Like if they want to do real estate or if they have health goals, they want to be healthier. I say, okay, let's go through this 3 by 5 plan. And I say, 3 being day, week, month, and then 5 deep. Who are the 5 people, 5 YouTube videos, 5 organizations that you interface with, say, on a daily basis? So day, that's your first one of the 3, day, week, month. So on a daily basis, who are the 5 people, if you want to do real estate or if you want to have a healthier living, right? Who are the 5 people that you're having conversations with and listening to and having coach you, right? Are they your neighbor? Are they, it could be a family member who's maybe, not really the best person who should be advising on that. Yet you call them every day and say, hey, I have this struggle, right? But, you know, maybe it should be your personal trainer every day. You should be seeing your personal trainer. Maybe another one should be a nutritionist. Maybe if there's some issues there, you need to see a nutritionist. Maybe another one should be, hey, every day I watch a YouTube channel that talks about healthy cooking and healthy eating, right? So you go through that list, and I chose 5 deep to really force people to think. Who are the 5 people? Because you can say, I have a friend that calls me every day just to, shoot the shit for an hour. Well, that's not value add. That doesn't get you to achieving your goal. You have to cull the crowd, unfortunately. I'm not saying you don't talk to that person ever. I'm just saying don't talk to that person every single day, because they're not going to help you achieve your goal. So you really got to think about who are those 5 people each and every day that's going to help you achieve your goal, right? Same thing on a weekly basis, right? Maybe on a weekly basis, you're watching a couple of different YouTube channels that are showing you some different exercises, right? Giving you some different education, right? So who on a weekly basis are you interfacing with? Maybe you're going to a yoga class, or you're going to a fitness class, cardio kickboxing on a weekly basis to help you achieve your goal. What are the 5 things you're doing? And then again, on a monthly basis, right? Who is it? Are you meeting with a mentor once a month to help keep you centered and balanced around all the complex things we have in our lives? Who is that person? Do we have it in our lives? Or are we just kind of floating aimlessly? Let's identify it, or let's go find it. What conference are you going to? Or what group event are you going to that is going to support that goal that you have? Let's think about it. Because if we're not thinking about it and we're not putting action behind those goals and creating the right atmosphere with our network, it's very difficult to achieve these things. right? So that's a visual that I share with folks. And we take that visual and we put it down on paper and we say, okay, day, week, month, who are the five? And sometimes we don't get to five, and that's okay, but let's work towards it, right? So that's something I share. I hope it's of value to the audience and folks think about it and they kind of start putting names down on the paper.
No, I really appreciate you sharing that. It really light bulb kind of came up for me when you were talking there. We focus as investors on investing our money, but in the end, we're really investing our time. What are we investing our time in, and what type of return do we expect from it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great, we're never going to get more time, right? The time we had an hour ago is gone. We're never getting that back. It's gone, right? Fortunately, we have another hour ahead of us and another hour in front of that. But eventually, those hours will come to an end. And we have to be real careful that we're not squandering those hours. We have to use them the best way we can.
Tony, this has been just absolutely fantastic. I really appreciate your time. Before we jump in to the rapid fire questions and close out this episode, I want to point everybody to dirtybootscapital.com, dirtybootscapital.com. Learn about more about Tony there. I believe you probably have a link to your book, Freedom at Risk. You can find that at your favorite bookseller.
For me, as I get older, as I really see how fortunate I am, and really how fortunate we all are. We're all very fortunate in our lives and in this world. A lot of times we do look to take a lot. What can you share with me? What can you educate me on? What can you tell me about a great lender or a great website? We look to take a lot. One thing I want to share with folks is don't forget to give. Don't forget to give. Be kind. Give to each other, whether it's a concept, whether it's a website you found, whether it's a name that you think that person can help somebody else. Give freely, please. We need to create this an even greater culture of giving back, right? There's a lot of folks that I meet and see they're good people, God to honest good people, but we need to not just take, we need to give back. So please, for all the viewers out there, if there's something good you've struck gold on, feel free to share that information with others in your network. And let me tell you, it comes back to you. And so many great people who have shared things with me, and it makes them now want to give back to you, which is a beautiful thing.
Well, Tony, really appreciate all of that. If you're ready, we'll dive into the rapid fire questions and we'll close out this episode.
Sure, let's do it.
First off is, what lie do real estate investors tell themselves?
The biggest one I would share is how good they are. There's a lot of real estate investors who will tell you they are the cat's meow. I think folks have to be careful. Investors who are looking to invest with others, be very careful. There's a lot of pitfalls. We're all working to do better and be better. But those folks who are really patting themselves on the back and really hurting themselves doing so, maybe stay away from those folks. That's the biggest lie out there, is how good some of them think they are.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
So this could mean something different for different age categories. So for me, as a 25-year-old, I would give myself the advice of go before I'm ready, right? At the age of 25, I had the luxury of time to be able to recoup on any mistakes I made. And I didn't know everything that I needed to know, but that's okay. Don't let fear paralyze you. I would share with folks, just simply go before you're ready. Figure out things as they come, as you need to learn them. Figure them out. Don't be paralyzed. Go before you're ready.
Do you have a book recommendation?
So I have a couple of book recommendations, a couple of books that I love. I've read Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. Great book, very easy to read, very storybook format. It kind of goes into the premise of you don't need to be the expert on how to do everything, but you just need to have the who's in your network that can help you. And that's the purpose of having a great network of people. Right. Who Not How is a great book. I also love the book The One Thing by Gary Keller. the one thing really helps you focus on what is that one thing that's going to move the needle for me, right? Again, we have very complex lives, family, business, a lot of things going on, and our mind gets saturated with a lot of things. But at the end of the day, there can only be one thing. So really, really immerse yourself into that book. Uh, the one I'm reading right now was the one that I mentioned, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. I'm reading that now. Great book. Helps me better understand where I'm seeing resistance in my life. And it's really making me think. I'm 52 years old, and here I am, 52 years old, saying, holy cow, I wish I knew this earlier. And I'm seeing all these resistance points and areas in my life. So that's a great book. And a lot of these things are also on audiobooks. So, listen to when you're in the car, all that stuff.
What single strategy or tool have you implemented that has had the biggest time-saving impact to you or your business?
For me, it's in real estate, it's my underwriting tool. That's the biggest thing. And as I alluded to, I'm always working to make that better, not only to find the best deals and structure the best deals, but also, as you mentioned, save time, because time as it passes, we can't get it back, like we spoke about. So my underwriting tool is my biggest asset to me in my day-to-day job. So I want to make that most robust. That's what I'm working on.
Well, Tony, this was fantastic. You can learn more at dirtybootscapital.com, dirtybootscapital.com, or make the investment, pick up the book, Freedom at Risk. Really appreciate your time, Tony. This was fantastic.
Thank you, Jack. This was a lot of fun. I hope folks take action on it.